What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shogi from Shook Earth Media, and today we are back with Better Call Saul, and this is an amazing episode. I feel like this episode we fully finish the transition to Saul Goodman. This is Saul Goodman crystallized. We're getting a lot of fan service moments, and there's a lot of Breaking Bad shout outs to this episode. So if you're a Breaking Bad fan, this episode is full of things to satisfy you, but there's also a lot going on with Kim in this episode, and there's a lot jam packed into this episode. So we have a lot to get into. And right off the bat, we get a really off-putting scene at first. I was like, what is going on? We got these two very eccentric looking bikers, and they in uniform use their arms to turn signal and stuff like that, so they're very specific and just kind of ordinary in a way, and they are like kind of decoys almost. And they pass by this house they think is ugly, and they're gonna Karen out to the local board or whatever, homeowners association. And then they walk in, and it turns out they work at Gus's house. And it feels like they're there to put on a show for everybody else. Like, Gus puts on this persona, the Chicken Man, so it's this double life he's leading, of course. And we get a look inside his house later also, which is interesting, so I like it. So just to clarify, they're not working in Gus's house. Actually, there is a tunnel underground that goes from Gus's house to their house, and they just let Gus come in there so that he can have a home away from home, so that he can get away with going back out again at night without raising suspicion, or bringing the gangsters over to the house. So that is why they're there, and there are guys with guns in their house, so they're just a front for the cartel, basically. So that's who these two are. And then we get another Howard segment, and the directing of this episode is phenomenal, and cinematography, as always, is great. Ray Seahorn actually directed this episode. There's a lot of big Kim moments in this episode, too, so she was pulling double duty in this episode, so it was really well done. So, great directorial debut, I must say. I would be very happy if this was my directorial debut, but we get a fun therapy scene, and and then we see Jimmy from the back, and you think it's Howard because he's dressed as Howard for the scheme in this episode, but it starts the scene with the transition. Oh, I had a dream in the therapist's office, and they make you think it's the dream for a second, and that was one of my favorite parts of the episode. And this whole scheme is absolutely insane. They steal his car. They organize a whole meeting with Maine again, the guy who works at Maine, and Davis and Maine, and he's going to witness some shenanigans featuring who they want to think is Howard, but of course is actually Jimmy dressed as Howard, driving Howard's car. And it's an absolutely great scene. I was right in the trailer. I was like, this looks like the exact same motel that we were at in Breaking Bad, and it is. And we get a surprise cameo from, I believe her name is Wendy. Jesse famously spent quite a bit of time with her, so it was fun to see her again, even though it's like 10 years after Breaking Bad at this point, so they don't try to de-age anybody, but I mean, I appreciate that she is in this, and it's great. He throws her out of the car, and he drives very obnoxiously, so he wants to feed into this narrative they've been painting of who Howard is, his secret life on the inside. Ooh, I just thought of it. What if there's a connection with that, trying to portray Howard as having the secret life, but they actually have a secret life, and Gus has a secret life. Everybody has a secret life here, and I'm connecting things in my head. There's a lot in this episode about shoes. We get shots of people's shoes a lot, so I think that has to do with the image that you portray to the world, and clothing as a part of that, and the shoes you wear for the job you do. There's a lot of close-ups of shoes in this episode, so that's something I've noticed, and I'm just connecting these things now. It's very stream of consciousness. But jumping back into the episode, the most hilarious moment of the episode, somebody took the parking spot that Howard had, so he was not able to park in the same spot, so he parked next to it, and he picked up the sign and moved it over, of course, just as Howard is coming out. So that was a hilarious scene, and just the idea of him dressed as Howard doing this is so funny. I absolutely love the costume. It's absolutely perfect. So it works. He gets to the car and he drives away, doesn't notice anything. Do I believe that he wouldn't notice anything? I mean, I guess he's like very in his head because he just got out of the therapist's office. It's stretching it, but I could still see it, So, and then we get this scene here that sets up a conflict later with Wendy again. Wendy sees people she thinks are undercover cops, but it turns out that they're actually, well, we'll get to that at the end of the episode because we find out, and I was wrong, and I'm going to admit that I was wrong in the first recap that I did of this season. I said that the car at the end was law enforcement. We're going to get back to it, but it was not law enforcement. I was wrong, so I must admit it, okay? You can't say that I won't admit when I'm wrong, because I just did, So here we have Kim and Jimmy celebrating their victory, and Kim asks Jimmy if he thinks that he's being followed as a result of the previous scene, and Jimmy says that this is just paranoia, so because they got away with it and nobody knows. So the next scene is, I feel like this is the debut of, this is the Saul Goodman we know from Breaking Bad. I mean, this is just how he looked when he was introduced, the earpiece in, always talking, very boisterous and stuff. And I mean, this scene and the way everybody treats him in it all fits into the greater themes of the episode involving the shoes, symbolism, and stuff. We'll get back to that a little bit later, but this is Saul Goodman. It might be the costume that he was in when he was first introduced. It really is how it looks, and we're contrasting with previous seasons because we talked to this lady who used to give a bunch of stuff and just be really nice to, and they had a connection where they helped each other out, like she filled out forms for him and stuff. So, of course, everybody knows the secret about the Lalo Salamanca thing. Everybody knows, but they're going to all give him the cold shoulder. People he used to schmooze and be nice to, and it doesn't work out for him. So, even this guy who we've seen a lot in previous seasons is not a fan of Jimmy at this point, and tells him straight up why, because everybody knows about the Lalo thing. So that's confirmed, but he admits that they can't prove it. And this is one shot where they had a reverse angle of this from up here. The camera was up here, and this was like reverse shot, and it was very creative. I'm just bringing it up here because it shows the separation between the two people in the conversation. So just to have, half the frame obscured there, it was just kind of cool. So I'm pointing out that was the reverse shot right there. You guys would have to pause it to see. But that's Kim doing more pro bono work. And then she confronts the people following her. And they don't tell her anything, but they just leave and like, sorry to have bothered you. And that was that. So the themes of this episode, with the difference between the outside and the inside of a person and the costume you wear as a result of what you want people to see you as, that's kind of what this episode is about. I mean, we got Jimmy, who always prided himself on, how his interactions with others, and that's, even with his brother and everything, it was like, oh, Jimmy was the guy that everybody liked. Jimmy is affable and people like to talk to him and like to see him and stuff. So that was one of his greatest traits. That is completely gone now. There is no the Salamanca thing was the nail in that coffin. It's over. It's dead. It was honestly on its way out anyways. That just expedited things and put a sharp end to it. And now he's put on this other suit of Saul Goodman already, but he's only used it in certain situations where it's been segmented. He's Jimmy McGill in court, although he did blur that line when he changed his name legally, what he's practicing under. But of course, the lines have been blurring as we've gone across. But this is the moment where it's cut off, where the old Jimmy is done. He's Saul Goodman now, and by the end of this episode, with later things that happen that we'll get into, wow, we're like most of the way through this episode. So much happens in this episode, but there's so much more left to talk about. Because we got this great scene where he comes into the spa and everybody's here. And this guy, somebody recognized him in the trailer, but I didn't recognize him because he looks so different. He looks like put together at this point. So as a result of the Salamanca thing, the word about Jimmy representing Salamanca getting out, other people are interested in working with Jimmy now because of that connection. They trust him because he's the criminal lawyer, as Jesse put it famously. But this guy right here is from Breaking Bad. He was the guy who got his head smashed in with an ATM by his wife, and of course Jesse took credit for it. And in one of the most memorable bottle episodes that Breaking Bad did, and he's back in this episode. I'm curious to see what his role in the storyline is going to be. We don't really get any at this point. It's just a cameo, so I don't know if he's actually going to be in the storyline down the line, or if it's just like a, hey, member. But this time I'm okay with the member berries because it makes sense, it fits. So the nail salon lady is very upset because of all these people, and that's kind of funny. And then we get an amazing scene here with Kim, and we got Mike here revealing himself, and the secret is that the people following Kim are Mike's guys, and with Gus and everything, and they are there because they know Salamanca is still alive, and he tells her this secret that Salamanca's alive. We're here to help, basically. Even though, of course, they have their own interests in finding Salamanca. But so he just tells her the secret and tells her that he's telling her the secret because he thinks she is made of stronger stuff than Jimmy, Saul, and I think he's right about that. But we get some interesting things at the end. I'm not sure how Kim is feeling, what she's thinking. We'll get to that when we get to it. But like I said, this is a big Kim moment. And I feel like we're at the precipice of a big change. I don't know what's good, if her and Jimmy are going to break up, or there's just a different direction in their relationship, or if somebody's going to die, aka Kim, because Jimmy, we know he survives. But I'm just saying that it feels like something big is coming. I don't know what it is, but we'll get back to that at the end of the episode. Of course, we come back here to Gus's house. We're back at Gus's house. He is undressing. He's in the fake version of his house, the show version of his house. And when he's outside, he's waving to the neighbors. He's pretending to be all happy and stuff. And then he enters the home, and of course, you see the facade drop, and you see how cold he really is, of course, and then he's disrobing and dressing for the rest of the day, and you can see that he's got a vest on underneath, and of course that's just to show how he wants to be discreet. He wants it to be discreet, but he is, of course, prepared for anything, and he plays with his gun there, or he's thinking about leaving the gun and then just going through the rest of his life without having it on him. There's a moment there where he's thinking about not having it, and then he puts it back on, and that's something that goes around his ankle, a little holster for his gun. Again, being discreet, but still keeping it street, and I had to say that because it rhymed, and he's got secret passages in his house. It's disguised as a breaker, and then it goes to a tunnel, and then it's a secret door. It's awesome. But I like the idea here, and of course he runs past the people we saw at the beginning. Of course, not there to be actual characters, supporting characters, but I think they're there to represent the difference between the outside and the inside, like I said, and putting on a costume and putting on a show for people. That's what this whole episode is about. I mean, the setting up Howard and everything, that's putting on a show, a fake show. So there's all these things about putting on a show, how you present yourself doing so, and all of that. So there's a lot of really juicy symbolism, and I think Ray Seahorn did a great job with the I don't know if the shoes thing was in the script, but usually that kind of thing wouldn't be in the script. It might be. They're kind of specific on Breaking Bad show. Or this isn't Breaking Bad, but I think of it as Breaking Bad. But yeah, so that's usually something that a director would think of and put in, the symbolism with that. And I think that I would say that it was her idea. So, and then we get the scene at the end. It's another Breaking Bad shout out where we're at the actual office where Jimmy ends up moving into and having the Statue of Liberty sign. And it was cool to see the Statue of Liberty inflatable thing. Before, we're getting the origin story of everything. A lot of times, like, this kind of origin story stuff is a little overdone with the prequels, where they're like, we have to see the origin of every little thing. But you know what? In this, it's something I would usually criticize something for, but in this case, I think it makes sense. It really doesn't feel forced at all. It feels very organic. It feels earned because we spent all this time with Jimmy leading up to this point. And it's like we're with Jimmy with everything he's doing. Of course, we would see him buy the new place, because we've been with him every step of the way. It only makes sense. I think this sets up the fact we've reached this point. We're only 4 episodes into the season, which is going to be it's longer than usual. It's in 2 parts. I think maybe 16 episodes or something. I forget offhand, but yeah. So I'm curious if we're going to start skipping time after this, if the rest of the season, there might be some time jumps, some surprising things, because we've reached this transformation point and things are coming to a head, and I feel I'm really excited to see where this show goes. So, but some of the stuff, before I forget, before we sign off, one final thing. Kim, in this end scene, she has this moment where she's like, elsewhere, and she's clearly thinking about Lalo still being alive. I think she might be rethinking like a lot of things. What is it? Is she rethinking their thing with Howard? Is she rethinking being with Jimmy, who's connected with Lalo and stuff? She's probably might be thinking like, hey, if I'm not around, like, I'm not really in as much danger. But I mean, she did meet Lalo and everything, and he knows who she is, but I don't know, she didn't represent him, so it's a bit different. Maybe she's like, oh, maybe I have to get away, or maybe we should both get away, or something. But I feel like there's something going on, and it feels like it could be something bigger, and once we know what it is, once it happens, it'll make a lot more sense in retrospect. So that's what I think of it. And I do think, because I listened to the Better Call Saul Insider podcast, which they do every week. I don't know if they've done it for this season yet. I have yet to look into it and listen to it, but it's a very informative, behind-the-scenes type of podcast with all the creators. They go through really in-depth everything in the episode, the locations, everything they do. So if you're interested in filmmaking, it's one of the best resources you're going to get. It's way better than your average like director commentary even. Like, those are great too. But yeah, so I recommend that. We're going to do a video probably when the season is on hiatus after the mid-season finale. After that happens, we will probably do a video where we listen to parts of those episodes and just do the highlights, maybe like 50 facts of behind the scenes Better Call Saul. Let me know if you guys think that would be interesting. Or maybe we should do standalone videos that are like the symbolism of this episode or something, like the shoes thing that we talked about in this episode. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear from you. But that's where the episode ends, with a bit of uneasiness, and we don't know what's going on with Kim and where the next episode is going to take us. So I absolutely love this episode. There's so much happening, and every character gets their shine in this episode. It's so rare. I mean, we cover Walking Dead shows on this channel a lot. Fear the Walking Dead, I feel like, hasn't had an episode with every cast member in like years at this point, and I feel like this show shows everything just cohesively fitting together. So it's a perfect episode. I love it. I love it. I love it. Everything about it. And I'm going to sign off because I feel like I've said everything important. So thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.